Welcome to the Melanin Marvels podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Adrian.
I'm Anika.
And I'm Divi.
And to celebrate Black History Month, today we're going to share some of our favorite Black characters from comics and graphic novels that you may not have heard of. We'll also be taking some time to celebrate some Black community leaders that are doing heroic and impactful work. And we are also joined alongside our special guest, Greg. So Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm honored to be on your show. I'm Greg, or Gregory, whatever you want to call me. I went to UIT for life science. I finished that program. Then I went to Durham College for physiotherapy assistant / occupational therapy assistant, or PTA, OTA. Now I'm out of that and I'm just looking for a job. What else? I really like anime. I've liked it since high school. No, even since I was a kid, but didn't realize it was anime until like high school. What else? I like sports. Well, playing sports, not really watching. What else? I've started doing art and a bit of reading.
We'll tag Greg's Instagram pages down below, and you can check out some of his art and his comic books that he shares.
Be nice.
As mentioned, this month, to celebrate Black History Month, all of us has gathered our favorite Black heroes from graphic novels and comics to talk about, share, and celebrate. So, to get us started, Anika, tell us one of the characters that you chose to highlight today.
So I feel like a lot of people would expect me to do Storm, but Storm's not one of my choices. Instead, the other one is Sojourner Joe Mullen from Far Sector. So Far Sector is actually from DC Young Animal, and it's supposed to be 12 issues. We're currently going to get the 10th issue this month. The writer of it is a famous Black author, N.K. Jemisin. She writes a lot of fantasy. And the illustrator is actually a Toronto man, Jamal Campbell.
We met him at Fan Expo 2019.
Canada.
Sorry.
Yes. Her powers is that she is a Green Lantern, but the difference is that her ring is different than the other Green Lanterns in that her ring has a limit, and the other Green Lantern rings it's like attached to a power battery, but she doesn't have that. Hers replenishes itself. But I think apparently she only has 1 year to make a change. The book is called Far Sector because she's in the farthest sector possible. Like, it's so far that like we don't even know what the sector is. Okay, so why I like her is that she not only represents Black females, but she's also a relatable character because she grew up with a troubled home life, and she was smart and went to college, but she was accepted to college, I should say, but she ended up going to become a soldier, and then when she came back to America, she became a cop. And then the book kind of highlights how she struggled with that, like with the whole racial thing and like feeling like indifferent, because obviously cops are doing stuff and like she's against that. So it's kind of relatable. And she's just a badass female.
Yes, Anika, yes.
You mentioned...
Please go ahead.
So you mentioned Far Sector in our first episode, I believe.
Yeah.
So one thing I was interested to know is, like, can you describe, like, what's her personality like?
So Joe is actually bisexual, but it's not shoved down your throat, and it doesn't feel like pandering because it just feels like natural and just like, oh, it's just another aspect of her. But her personality, she's cool. Like, I would want to be her friend. She's smart. She's got a little sense of humor, some sass.
Okay, so the character I want to highlight is Lunella Lafayette, also known as Moon Girl. So she is part of the Marvel Universe, and she debuted in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur issue 1 in November 2015, so like 6 years ago, or almost 6 years ago now. So the character was created by Brandon Montclair and Amy Reeder. An additional artist is Natasha Bustos. I'm gonna give a little explanation on her story. So Lunella is a 9-year-old girl living on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and she's actually described as the smartest character existing in the Marvel Universe. And so in school, she's bullied by her classmates. They call her Moon Girl because she's super smart, and so this leads her to daydream and invent a bunch of strange things. So everybody bullies her for these things, which, you know, she's smart. She's a young Black girl. She's just trying to do her things. Okay, so the series follows her essentially creating a partnership with Devil Dinosaur. So she opens a portal through a device that she creates. Devil Dinosaur comes through, and then she learns that she can communicate with him because they share this mental link. And then she goes on a mission to retrieve this device, and then she gets into a sticky situation, and Devil Dinosaur saves her, and then a bunch of other stuff happens, and then they become partners that go on adventures. And I mean, in terms of her school, her cred at school, obviously hanging out with a dinosaur doesn't help her be normal. But as they go on their adventure, she kind of decides that she doesn't want to be normal, and she embraces all of her quirkiness and her nerdiness and all this stuff. And so I really like that. And so I'll give you a list of her powers. She has super genius intellect, but I don't know that this is a power, just that she's super smart, and I feel we can just appreciate that. Her main power is that she shares that mental link with Devil Dinosaur, and then she also started experiencing that when she starts to have strong emotions and rage and angry, she can actually transfer her consciousness into Devil Dinosaur, and then so their consciousness swaps. So I feel that's a really cool I feel that sounds crazy, but I think about it so when Bruce Banner changes from Bruce Banner to the Hulk, all his clothes rip and everything's terrible. But when Lunella switches her consciousness with the Devil Dinosaur, she didn't have to worry about her outfits, okay? She just gets to be a dinosaur, and I think that's pretty fantastic. So there you go. Yeah, so that's why I think she's super cool. I think she's super smart and amazing, and she gets to hang out with the dinosaur, which I think is cool despite what those kids say.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. One thing I've always wondered, because I know you mentioned Moon Girl's been around for about 6 years. Has Moon Girl ever made an appearance outside of her comics, in an animated or movie sense?
Yeah, okay, so they are making a show. It's saying that it's actually gonna come out this year. But I think it's a good idea. I was thinking because yes, we have started to get a lot of Black heroes in the Marvel universe, in the cinematic universe and things like that, and that's good. But I like this because it's for a younger crowd. She's a 9-year-old girl, right? And to see a young Black girl in STEM, creating all her inventions, going on crazy adventures, and she rollerblades. I think that's cool. I'm excited for everyone.
All right, yo, that's awesome. I think I have yet to sort of dive into Moon Girl, but from what you mentioned, sounds real cool.
Oh, sorry. Fun fact. When I did my thesis project, I guess at this point it's a couple years ago, I was deciding between her and Riri to cosplay as. So she was one of the top contenders because Moon Girl is awesome. Proceed.
You're gonna rollerblade too?
With the rollerblade, that was actually, I was I'm not coordinated enough to do this.
Fair enough.
For her.
All right, so for my choice, I chose an interesting one. And my choice is Harriet Tubman was my selection through the graphic novel Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. So this was a graphic novel / comic that debuted in March 27, 2017, created by David Crownson. And shout outs to the artists. We have Cortland Ellis, Joey Vasquez, and Dana Verdes. So the cool part about this, for some context, the graphic novel is like a fictional take on like the real life conductor of the Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman, who freed approximately 1,000 slaves in her history and is known as one of the nation's fiercest abolitionists and freedom fighters. So the creator decided to take a different spin on it and include demons. So, you know, Abraham Lincoln did it, so why not Harriet Tubman? And I have to say, right now, the series is 5 issues deep. I've read 3 of the 5, but I have to say, Harriet is this complete badass. So she's cool. Not only is the representation of a strong Black woman, but also dual-wielding katanas, killing racist white slave owners, vampires. What else would you want to ask for? But on top of that, they do a fantastic job developing the character of her being not only fierce, but having a lot of heart. I won't spoil too much, but you see a family that's trying to escape from a plantation that they're on. And seeing Harriet interact with this family, especially when it comes to like the little girl who's a part of the story, is just really heartwarming to showcase like a soft side to such a strong leader. And I don't think usually when it comes to, I guess, the context of like demon slaying and all that, but also when it comes to like the slave narrative, you don't see a lot of folks sort of highlighted for, I guess, like there's usually the victim mentality there, but seeing her showcase and also the folks who are the supporting characters as well developed, and also they highlight play around with the dynamics of heroism. You expect it to be, there's like a strong like man who's like the father, but also seeing him be scared, seeing the mother be fierce, riding the horse throughout the session as well. It's really cool series. One of my highlight moments of it is when Harriet makes her like grand appearance. The family is encountered with a whole bunch of vampires, and they're saying obscurities and like sort of questioning like the folks' intelligence. And Harriet has a scene where she has her katana and she's spelling out katana, and she's like Katana, while she's just slicing parts of these vampires as well. It's just how it's been created, how the drawings are all so vivid. It's phenomenal. So strong recommendation for anyone who has interest in it. Character strong, witty, loving, and just beautifully drawn and badass. So strong recommendation for Harriet Tubman, my first choice to highlight.
Because I feel like obviously we've all seen like the slave narrative done to death, but it's important that like if they are focusing on that type of narrative, that there's complex characters and they're more than slaves.
So for my first character I decided to highlight, I decided to put, I don't want to say my lesser character, but the character I feel like I had less to say about first. So her name is Alina Abbott, from a comic called Abbott by Saladin Ahmed, and the art is by Sammy Kivela. Let's see, what do I like? I guess I can say it's put out by Boom Studios. It debuted on June 13th, 2018, and actually there's another comic book series for Abbott coming out called Abbott 1973, and that is coming out January 20th, 2021, so this Wednesday. But obviously this will be aired later.
Yeah.
So. Let's see. I guess what I like about her, well, I'll say what she is. She's a Black woman, and the year is 1972, and she's in Detroit. She worked for a paper, I believe it's called Detroit Daily. So she's a journalist. She writes her stories, and racism is a topic also in that. So she works with a lot of white men also, so they like pester her. They don't really respect her, but her boss actually really stands up for her and says guys, stop it, she's a really good reporter, shouldn't be saying all this stuff about her, etc., etc. Some things that I like about her: she's not afraid to tell a story without sugarcoating it, regardless of what people say. So because some of her stories is exposing white cops and injustices that they perform to the Black community, and then they're all like, why are you doing this? But she's telling her the truth. So what else? She doesn't fall into the stereotype of a woman. So an example would be, her boss said to her, a woman is supposed to have a man to protect her. And then she responded by saying, I'm going to pretend that you didn't say that. So obviously in the sense that she don't need no man to protect her. Another thing is, she's passionate about what she believes in, and she'll pursue it no matter what. So I guess kind of without to spoil the story, I'll give it a quick synopsis. So Abbott is about these murders going on in Detroit, and how do I explain? It's so it's these murders happening in Detroit, but it's between say it might be a mutilated horse, they'll find the head of a horse or the body of something, or they'll find the head of a person or it's the body of a person. But usually it's always, from the ones that I saw, it was always a Black male victim. So it's about that, but there's also some magic in it too. So without going too much into detail, it's she's just trying to figure out who is committing these murders, what's happening, and yeah, it takes her on a whole journey, and it was really interesting.
That also sounds terrifying.
It would be terrifying if you were in her shoes.
How are those images?
They look very nice. The colors that they use to I guess kind of show an ominous thing in the air. It's really I can't even do it justice explaining it. It looks really nice. You need to read yourself and see how it looks.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that the author of that is actually the author of the current run of Miles Morales.
Oh, is it? I didn't realize.
That being said, to be the disturber or instigator, how do you guys feel about this guy who's non-Black but writing all of these Black characters?
Yeah, I know.
Theory, yes.
Especially because with Abbott, it seems like race and gender is a huge theme, but the author is neither Black nor a female. So does that change how you feel, or
it I would say it would, but
do you feel conflicted?
I do, because he does a good job in portraying not just her but the other Black people in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So it's unfortunate. I'm sure other people could have done it too, but he did a good job in representing them.
And he does a good job with Miles too. So it's not to say, it's not to. I feel like a lot of people would view our discussions as just being haters against non-Black or non-whatever. But so obviously he's a person of color himself. He's a BIPOC person, and he does an amazing job at what he does. It's just I too would feel kind of conflicted, because it's I fight so hard for representation and the proper representation, and it's he's giving representation, yes, we love the representation that he is giving to us. However, we're looking at it and it's Black, not Black, female, not female.
Because then also, sorry, it was also nominated for a Hugo Award for Best Graphic Story. I don't think it won, but it was nominated. And in the story, I forgot to mention this, there's hinting that hints at her being bisexual also. So and as you were saying, it's not it's just constantly shoved in your face. It's little hints here and there. So it was a nice touch.
Also, I'd just like to say I really like that all of our first like characters that we picked were like strong, badass like women and girls. So I'm very pleased with that. And Black women and girls, importantly.
Yeah.
I think the one thing I wanted to, I think there's a good point there when it comes to the author being non-Black, but like, you know, writing these stories. And I think one thing to note as well is, what am I trying to say? Like, maybe knowing, it would be great to know what their process was in sort of creating their characters as well. Because I think there's a lot that goes into sort of the creation of a character and of the series that we don't see behind the scenes as well. And I'd be interested to look them up as well to see what their sort of work is, or interview to see what their process is, because they could very well be also like consulting with like other folks as well in order to get a sense as to like what sort of, how to make sure that the characters that they have are reflective of the actual experience. So I think that's one thing this sort of why, because I think, and folks correct me with this too, I think the one other way to look at it is that the person had like the opportunity to create this story and created space to highlight this, because it could have been, they could have taken it a different direction, they didn't have to take that angle as well, but that's being true. Able to take the space to like intentionally create this series revolving like this person's experience and ensuring that there are those intersections of like gender, race, sexuality incorporated there. Well, I haven't seen or I haven't read the comic. I think it's something that, I don't know, because it's important for us to acknowledge as well when it comes to being able to acknowledge the space that they have and the opportunity they had to create this, and then being able to highlight those stories, but also important in order to know who's in the room in writing and how they're sort of creating these characters as well.
Yeah, it's true, because like obviously I read a lot. I like to read BIPOC things. So there's a well-known, she's become well-known now, an author, and she wrote a book, Dear Martin, Dear Justice. She's actually done like novels for Shuri and stuff, but her name's Nick Stone, and the majority of her best-selling books are from the perspective of men, like a young men or boys. So in that, she said that a lot of people think that she's a guy because she goes by Nick, but the thing is, when she's doing her whole writing process, like she makes sure to talk to the people whose stories she'd be telling, to make sure that it's as accurate as possible. I'm like, that's important. In order to give representation, you have to talk to the people who you're trying to represent.
I also, because like I do obviously think that like like consulting with the people you're trying to represent, obviously that's like extremely important, but I think this is like my real problem with like white writers writing stories about Black people and other racialized populations, because like, yes, you know, I am sure, especially with like how well the story's been received, I'm sure, you know, he does speak to people of that community to get insight. But at the same time, I feel like because we live in an era of a lot of social media, there are a lot of BIPOC writers out there screaming to be recognized. So like, you know, fine, okay, even if this writer, he came up with an idea, like I feel like having a co-writer, somebody that is part of that community that has been like named and recognized for participating as like an actual person on there, instead of him just like consulting these nameless people. Do you know what I mean? Because there's power in that when someone's name appears on something, and I'm sure they can find somebody who is Black to help write that story. So like, yes, we can say, okay, he's a great, the white author is a great ally, but how great are you really if you're not pushing for Black people to be in those spaces? Because that's important, and that creates change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One piece though, if you're referring to the author of the book Gregory was talking about, I'm pretty sure they're Lebanese and Egyptian.
I will. There has been documented a lot of anti-Black racism within the Lebanese community. I will just leave that at that because we don't have time to delve into that.
Okay, more so on the branding of the person being white as well as more so addressing
Okay, yeah,
my
yeah.
identity.
Yeah. Well, so, but like, even still, like, you know what the thing is? I think a lot of people think that only white people are racist towards Black people, especially because we live in North America. But the fact of the matter is, anti-Black racism is a global issue because in so many communities it's there. So if a Black writer isn't involved in the creation of these stories, I honestly think that's a serious problem. Because one, just in terms of like who's profiting off of these stories, and two, how are we really ensuring that the nuanced complexities of the story is being included?
So my second character I chose, his name is Morris Sackett, aka Mosaic. And the company that created this book is Marvel, with this guy's debut was in Uncanny Inhumans number 11 from June 2016. So he's an Inhuman, and his solo started October 2016 and it ran until May 2017. So it was a pretty short run. The writer of this is Jeffrey Thorne, and the illustrator is Kari Randolph, which I think he does the art for one of Adrian's later ones, because I peeked. So his power is that he's an Inhuman, and his powers were awakened with the Terrigen Mist. And he's a cocky basketball player, so when it starts off, you don't really like him. But when he gets his powers, he realizes that he basically doesn't have his body anymore. He's just like a form, and then he takes on other people's bodies. Like he kind of like goes into their body, and he downloads their whole consciousness, all their memories and everything. And then he goes on to the next place. But his name's Mosaic because as he goes to different people, he keeps parts of them. So because of that, he is intelligent. He knows multiple languages. He has multiple skills because he took a little bit out of everybody. And the reason why I like him is because he started off cocky, but then throughout his story, you see him evolving as a person where he realizes, okay, like I can't be like this. Like people have feelings or like whatever. So yeah, I like him because of that.
That is such a cool concept. Like so cool. I feel like that makes him like almost like an art piece. That's so cool. No, it does though, you know, like the whole mosaic thing, that's so cool. Also, on the other hand, schizophrenia, but proceed.
He's superior athlete, multilingual, gifted intellect, expert pilot, which apparently because he's an Inhuman is why he had all that superior athleticism, but he didn't know he was an Inhuman, but his dad did, and he basically sold him out to these other people and like sold his soul essentially. Yeah. everything that he thought was real was not real at all. Like his girlfriend was paid. She signed a contract.
Oh my god, I need to read this. Yes.
So wait, question. So he was an Inhuman already? I thought he got turned into by the Terrigen Mist, right?
How the Inhumans operate, it's kind of like you're a mutant, I guess.
Okay.
But like it's activated by that Terrigen Mist.
Okay. Gotcha.
So like basically how his dad sold him out, they were waiting for eventually when his Inhuman whatever was activated. So before that, he already had like superior athleticism.
Yeah.
But then with the whole Inhuman thing, they were waiting because they didn't know what his power was going to be, but like they wanted to use that, whatever power it was.
Because I read that. It was really good. So.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, I gotta pick it up too because that sounds so cool.
Yeah, I was looking through some of the stills of the comics while you're talking about it, and it looks pretty cool. Love the concept, love the art. Like I think it showed a panel of him dunking on some folks in
Yeah.
one of the
why-
earlier issues.
When it ended, I'm like, okay, but where's the rest? Like, you basically don't hear about him anymore. Like, he could be used.
You mean,
How long was his
many-
series? How long was his arc?
Yeah.
It was not even a full year. October 2016 till May 2017. And then the issue in Inhumans before that.
All right. So the next person I wanted to highlight, character's name is Darius Smith. I actually have the graphic novel here. The graphic novel is Exogenesis. So this is created by Johnny O'Brien, who's the creator. Story was made by T.D. McIntosh. And the artist is one of my favorite people who I follow. His name is Nicholas Draper Ivy. I encourage you all to check him out. He does a lot of great art, and especially comes from representing Black characters within his own art, or reimagining commonly known like anime characters as Black, and it's really cool. So this debuted in March 27th, 2017. And the biggest part about the story here, this is in the future. Future is like 2077, if I remember correctly. And it's a future where there is like this high-tech mixed martial arts sort of competition called Exogenesis. And Darius, he's a young youth, navigating life, but also he lives in a rough neighborhood. So you see him, he has this gift for art, but also you just see him just getting into like tough situations, especially when it comes to like, there's like this large gang that occupies his neighborhood. And there's this one time where this gang bumps into him, causes him trouble, eventually sweeps them. And he's caught by one of a popular Exogenesis founders who take him on to be a part of an Exogenesis team. So you see him being able to become like this huge badass of a fighter. And you also see that he's rough around the edges, but he's also very loving towards his mom and towards his sister, who he's trying to keep out of trouble, while also sort of acknowledging the sort of systems around him that are sort of like oppressing him as well. So it's really cool. The art is phenomenal. And once again, shout out to Nicholas Draper Ivy for some of these panels and some of these screens here. They're beautiful. And the one thing about the character that I really love is that you see this dude get beaten up quite bad. No spoilers, but it gets a bit graphic when it comes to seeing some of the pain that he goes through. However, you also see the resilience associated with that while he's fighting, and also his mentality, how family and just like the grit sort of keeps him going. And I think when it comes to like embodying a youth who's given like an opportunity of his dreams to be a part of this with Exogenesis, but also being able to explore him as like within the dynamics of his family as well. It's a cool graphic novel. There's only one issue out so far, and it is made by a group called Noir Caesar, and they are a group that creates like Black-centered graphic novels and manga. So I encourage you all, if you have an interest, check it out. They're an amazing group, and they have a lot of big things going. And Exogenesis is going to be they're working on an anime for it as well. So big stuff there. Darius Smith is my guy. And the last thing I wanted to highlight with him was he had a quote that was pretty cool after he beat up this rival gang, and he was selected to be a part of he's pretty much drafted to be a part of this team, and a whole bunch of reporters approach him, and one quote he said that was pretty cool was, for context, the rival gang is called the Flaming 60. He said, "I fought the Flaming 60 because no one around here would. No one. They don't run this city. We all deserve to be here and to be anywhere equally. Why bully? What does that achieve?" And I thought that when it comes to being aware, well, they're talking about a gang, just surveying like the context, whether it be of like the current state when it comes to the U.S. government, or when it comes to folks oppressing. The idea of being able to be aware of spaces that you want to be equally like accessible and safe for people, and also being to the space where you're pushed to want to fight to resist that is something I thought was really powerful with the character himself. So yeah, that's Darius Smith, Exogenesis. Definitely check it out.
I love that you showed like a few of the panels, and also, I mean, there has been like a long history of the Eurocentric art form of comics and even anime, right? Like, because I know like anime is like originated in Japan, correct? And yet obviously all the characters' features are anglicized, right? Like they look like white people. So it's so important, I feel, to have Black characters in the anime like manga world, because I think for a long time a lot of like Black characters, or what's that word, like characters that were assumed to be Black, like they were portrayed in such like problematic, racially ignorant ways. So it's so important that this is here. And
yeah, and the thing with the company Noir Caesar is that, you know, Black artists, Black-centered stories, and just exploring the realm of like anime and manga to have that representation as well, because there are a lot of Black folks who love anime and manga. Yeah, we don't see ourselves a lot, or as you mentioned, some of the representations, I think they've done a better job, and Greg, you could chime in here as well, of like representing at some pieces, but I think there's still a bit of work to be done as well.
Yes. I don't really know what to say, because yeah, Black people in anime before, they look goofy.
And that is an understatement.
Like a lot of times it'd be like their lips just look ridiculous.
Mr. Popo.
That's what I was thinking.
I don't want to assume Mr. Popo was Black, but definitely they borrowed from some stereotypes to make that character, for sure.
The man is past Black. He's like
Tar, darkness.
Yeah.
Darkness.
Well, but
He's
those
black-faced Black.
Those characters, they don't say they're Black, but they like will use those caricatures. You say it. I can't. Okay, they use those features that they used to use honestly during like the blackface era to create those characters. So they won't say they're Black, but they'll use those same problematic imagery. And so I am glad that, what's this called?
Noir Caesar.
Noir Caesar is here. I am glad that they are here.
Are they like a new studio, or?
No, they've been around for 20. I want to note to 2017, around there.
I feel like
For a second, I thought you were gonna say 20 years. I'm like,
Yeah, me too.
that's what I thought too. Like, oh wow. But no, maybe that's the same one I heard of, because I did hear about there was like a Black studio that was being formed to like produce, I think it was like Black anime or cartoons. I don't really know.
Amazing.
Yeah, they've been expanding quite a bit, so I think it may be the same.
Might be, yeah. For my second character, I chose to highlight someone named Zach Taylor, or as other people would probably recognize him more as the Black Power Ranger.
Show the shirt.
Yeah, which is why I wore this. So yeah, and he was in I'm kind of flipping between the Mighty Morphin comic and the 90s TV show. So in the TV show, he was played by Walter Emmanuel Jones. He was actually in a lot of other things. I didn't realize, when I didn't write down exactly what it was, but when I looked it up, I was like, wait, he was in that? So he's in other things too. I'll jump to why I like him. Obviously, as a kid watching the show, it was nice to see a fellow Black person in it. But me being little me, my favorite character initially was actually the Blue Ranger, because I like blue.
Correct.
But I would say he was a close second or third, because then the Green Ranger came along, and who doesn't like the Green Ranger? It was so conflicting. But yes, I would say one thing I actually found out, and it's on Wikipedia too, but in the comic, he is actually second in command of the Power Rangers. Like, I don't know if this is like even when Tommy joins, but like before, it was Jason and Zach in leadership roles. So this is highlighted more in the Mighty Morphin comic. Well, I have one of them here. This is volume 2. It's kind of really bad, but at least bad picture, not bad comic. One thing that when I read it, I was like Zach honestly went from here to like so high after I read it. So I guess this is kind of spoiler for issue 5, but I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it anyways. So I'm gonna read off my little summary. So the Rangers are fighting a monster. I don't remember exactly where. And then let's see, they were in their Megazord, and obviously the monster was big. So I believe Jason came out, which is the Red Ranger. He hopped out to fight the monster because I think it's shrunk. But then he left Zach in the Megazord to pilot it. So, and after Jason, I think, cut it with the sword and he killed it, all the civilians started cheering. They're like, yeah, Red Ranger, Red Ranger. And then it cuts to Rita Repulsa, which is the initial main villain. It's just like a female witch in space. And she noticed that Zach was he looked like he was angry because everyone was cheering for the Red Ranger, when honestly he had a big part to play in their whole victory. So Rita Repulsa actually had Zach kidnapped, and what'd she do? She offered him the power of the Green Ranger, and she was saying like it's I know how it feels to know you can lead, but not given the chance. So Zach was saying like he considered it initially, because then she showed him like, can I? Yeah, actually, wow, open right to the cage. You can see she like showed him an illusion of him in the Green Ranger suit. So it's kind of hard to tell there, but yes, she showed him like a little vision of it, and he was like, "Oh, see, that's nice. Like I can be a leader." And she always says like she's doing all this to like benefit humanity. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna cause like push order and such," but obviously, I'm assuming her methods is not great. It's probably like a dictatorship. So Zach was tempted by it, he said, but he was like, no, I don't want that. So he was trying to steal the power, or he was trying to steal the Green Ranger power from her so she wouldn't use it. But then she got it back, and he obviously teleported back to his headquarters. And he told Zordon, which is their leader, a dude in a glass tube, just his face. And let's see, I want to say a quote he said. So after he told Zordon, and Zordon was saying like, he's like, I can tell something's wrong, Zach, so like, tell me what's wrong. And then he was saying, I don't care about leading. Like, we have all this great power. I just want to do more for the world. So it shows like his maturity, and he's just such a, honestly, like after that issue alone, like my respect for Zach like just skyrocketed, because honestly, like I just said, Green Ranger's so cool. Who wouldn't want to be the Green Ranger with your own little flute dagger and your dragon sword? And after he goes back to his group, and then Jason says like, oh, like thanks for earlier today, like we couldn't beat the monster without you. It's like, he's like, who are the Power Rangers without you? So it's like his team, like they appreciate him. It's not just like, oh, Zach did nothing, it's just like he's off doing his own thing. Like obviously his whole team appreciates him. So it's good to see that not only I guess that he's a good character, but he has good support from the rest of his team. What else is there? Oh, the comics put out by Boom Studio again. Debut date for for the I'll say for the show, was August 28th, 1993. And the comic debut date was January 6th, 2016. And his powers, Black Power Ranger, so they have super strength, wields the power axe, and can summon the Mastodon Dinosaur. Pretty sure that's...
Dinosaur.
Yeah.
Dinosaur.
Dinosaur.
Or so like. This is
Yeah.
officially a dinosaur-themed episode.
I don't know. Whenever I think of dinosaurs, well, I guess all of them. But Mastodon obviously doesn't come to mind. Like dinosaurs, Mastodon, and like, oh.
Dinosaurs, T-Rex.
Yeah, I think of like T-Rex, Triceratops, Pterodactyl, and then you got Sabertooth and Mastodon.
We literally just did that like at the same time.
I missed it.
Okay, so my first two were DC and Marvel, so it's only right that I come with an independent. So for that, I am going to highlight Niobe Ayutami of Niobe, She is Death. Well, I guess She is Death and She is Life. So she debuted in The Untamed, A Sinner's Prayer in December 2011, and then these two actually came out in 2019 and then 2020. So the creator and writer is Sebastian Jones, and the illustrator is Sheldon Mitchell. So why I like her is because she's a brown-skinned elf with dreadlocks, and she's the daughter of two types of elves. So this is relatable because it feels like representation for multiracial people, because she too is mixed. I really liked that she was confused and unsure of her place in the world, and she was able to find that by exploring, basically. Most people think of vulnerability as something that you develop out of, like that you can like no longer be vulnerable if you have more confidence. But with her, it's something you find out that it's like something that you always have vulnerability, and that's important. You can be confident and vulnerable, and it's really important for us to realize that as Black women, because Black women are seen to be like, you have to have all the confidence, you have to fill up the room, and you shouldn't be vulnerable because it'll be held against you. What I found cool, I don't know if you can see it in this, but she is what in our society we would call heterochromia, or she has two different colored eyes. So one of her eyes is hazel and the other one is blue. And her father has the same distinguishing feature, and she's the illegitimate child of said father, so he has people hunting her down so that she can be killed. And she doesn't really have a power per se, but she's a courageous warrior, and she embodies both life and death. She went to like the death realm, I guess, and she has healing powers that she's learned. That's pretty much it.
What?
She wields a sword.
Black women in fantasy, because fantasy and sci-fi are different things, right? It's important for it to be represented in those spaces. Yeah.
But the art looks like dope from what I've seen on the cover.
Well, let me see. That's the cover, but let's see it inside. Yeah, the inside's good too.
I read one of them. I don't remember which one. I think it was She is
I'm pretty sure it's this
Death.
one.
Is that one Death? Yeah, well, they're both Deaths. I think, yeah.
This was issue 1.
She looks like Jon Snow, low key. Like, I don't know if that's bad for me to say, but like with
from the beginning, I was like, one day I'll cosplay her. That day hasn't come yet, but it can.
Oh my god! And if I would help you make like the outfit, because that in itself like seems like it would take a lot of effort. I will help you.
Now that we've highlighted some of the Black characters that we've admired in our graphic novels and comics, it's only right for us to talk about the heroic and courageous community leaders that we have within our everyday lives. Dippy, what did you decide to highlight for this week?
Okay, so the community hero that I wanted to highlight is Yannick Branford. She's a young Black woman who is currently a student at Ryerson University. She's doing her degree in biomedical physics. Her research focuses on developing a new imaging modality for proton therapy cancer treatment. That's a whole bunch of science that I don't know, but good for her, amazing for her. But that's not all she does. The reason I wanted to highlight her is because she founded an organization called Help a Girl Out in 2016, which focuses on period poverty. Yannick herself struggled with period poverty firsthand as a teenager when she was living in the Caribbean, and then later when she was doing her undergrad degree in Canada. So she kind of saw that period poverty isn't just an issue in developing nations, but also in countries like Canada, where we think that, you know, these things aren't happening. All right, so just to give a bit of info, on period poverty. So many females around the world are forced, are shamed and like forced into isolation from their families because of their menstruation cycle. And in a lot of cultures, it's considered taboo. And period poverty is a global pandemic because a lot of girls are resorting to using items like newspapers, plastic, socks, towels, clothes, or previously used disposable pads and things like that when they're like going about in their everyday life. And like sometimes it gets so bad that women and girls are having to decide between like eating food or buying the like period products. And so she created this organization to address this issue. We'll include the her Instagram account in the description. So she created this account to not only spread awareness, but they do a lot of outreach work. They like go to schools and communities to talk about this. They also hold fundraisers to provide period products for girls and women in different communities. And I wanted to highlight this because I think, even as like for myself, like as a little brown girl living out here in the world trying to, you know, provide for me and my brother, like I've had these issues also. And I honestly didn't think that people were talking about it or that society was ready to make changes that would support women that are going through this. Recently, I think it was Quebec that made period products that they're going to be making it free. And I'm hoping that Ontario follows suit. And I think this organization is a big part of why that change is happening. So Yannick Branford is actually the winner of the 2020 Canada's Hero Award, which is a super big deal. And I think she's doing amazing work. So there you go. Yay! I was like nervous to say that because I was like, I know we're talking about like Marvel stuff and superpowers and stuff, but this is a serious issue. Society itself already traumatizes girls for having a menstrual cycle. And so then when they do have issues where they can't get the products that they need, like they face such isolation, stigmatization, and like.
It's true. It's like you're supposed to hide it, go to work like if you like nothing's any different.
Honestly, like I think even like because if you go to their website, like she tells her story. I feel like that's like we're taught to be like, oh, we shouldn't complain about our periods or things like that. But her even putting her own story out there and she details it, like I think that's powerful in itself, because why should we hide a part of our lives that happens monthly? We shouldn't be ashamed of the struggles that it's caused us, or society has caused us because of it. Shout out to Yannick Branford and her amazing work.
Yeah.
Black superhero. Yeah.
Black superhero. Yeah. Hey guys, just to let you know, we're about halfway through our Black History Month February Cover Art Challenge 21. So check us out. If you want participate. You don't feel like you have to do every single one, because I know it's hard. Go check out us on YouTube, The Melanin Marvels, as well as Spotify, Google Podcasts, all that stuff's link in bio, as well as go follow our guest over here, Greg, at Gregular167, as well as his art page, G Faulty. And check my page, Fresh Princess 92, for Greg's GG3. He just released a new one this month, so check it out.
Yeah. Again, thank you guys for having me on here. I also didn't realize that I'm your first guest, so yeah. Nice to have that honor, and I really enjoyed at least having our conversation about all these Black artists, Black comics, everything Black. But yes, I really enjoyed it, and I hope everyone else tunes into all your stuff because it's really good.
All right, so thank you for joining us on our Black History Month special. We all also wore super cool outfits for this episode, so we're all gonna stand up to show you what we're wearing.
Morphin' time! Mastodon.
All right, so we hope that you learned a lot and have a great Black History Month. We also want to hear from you. Who are some of your favorite Black heroes in comics or anime, as well as in your community? Leave it down in the description. We're always wanting to hear from you. Again, thank you. We hope you learned a lot and have a great Black History Month.
Interested in continuing the conversation? Feel free to add us on at the Melanin Marvels on Instagram.